Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Abez Show with me, Abe, your host. Today, I have somebody very special today. Mary, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Abe?
I'm good. I'm good. Mary, please tell my audience, what do you do? The floor is yours.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on your super awesome show. Very excited to be with you today. So, my name is Mary Nazzal, based in Jordan. My background is in justice activism. So, at my core, I'm a human rights activist turned social entrepreneur turned impact investor. I currently wear two major hats. One is as the founder of 17 Ventures, which is an impact investment outfit based in MENA. And the second is I'm the founder of Landmark Hotels, which is a social business based in Amman. And we are launching something very interesting called Landmark 2.0, which we can speak about briefly in a moment. And I'm a mom of three, I should say that as well.
Amazing. Very well rounded. I can tell that. That's amazing. It's always nice to see people with, a full rounded life on the show. So let's talk more about. I never knew that you did social justice, and that's something super cool. Like, what led you to jump on that? That's something that I'm right now trying to get my head around it. Right. So
Sure. Well, I can take you back to when I was a teenager, which is a long time ago. I'm 42 this year. So I've been an activist for over 20 years, both political justice and social justice. So I was very active and still am very active within the Palestinian movement and the Palestinian solidarity movement. And within social justice as well, I've been working on issues of gender equality and inclusion generally. So when it comes to displaced peoples, refugees, people with disabilities, I just believe in creating a fairer world. It's something that I teach my kids. It's something that I try and practice through not only my activism, but my business. I also am trained as a barrister with the English bar. So some people don't know what that is. So now, thankfully, I have Emma Clooney to thank. So I can say, basically, I do what she does. But my husband is much cuter than George Clooney. So I say that as well. But she's much taller than me. So that aggravates me. But in any case, so my background is human rights law, humanitarian law. And I founded an organization in 2009 called the Palestine Legal Aid Fund. And this was to facilitate human rights cases on behalf of the Palestinian people. So really, this justice activism thread is something that started over 20 years ago and has manifested itself in many different forms. And now what we're trying to do through 17 Ventures is really use the power of capital and look at the purpose of capital towards creating a fairer world and a more inclusive world. So this is the tool that I'm currently using.
amazing, and this is a topic that is very. Actually very close to my heart as well, impact and impact investments. And I did join Endeavor, and I think when I joined Endeavor in 2010, I think we joined Endeavor, the purpose of impact really resonated really well with me, right? So my impact is I sleep better when I know that I can create more jobs. I genuinely like having more people in a company. I generally, and the reason the company that we came into Endeavor with was Crystal, which is our call center company. Crystal employs thousands of people, right? So it's always makes you feel so much better. Obviously, it's a super difficult journey in the beginning, but impact. I love entrepreneurs who have an impact, especially if there's a social impact on it, because we are in a part of the world that really needs all the help that we can get. And I genuinely, so we need more people like you in our ecosystem for sure. Okay, so let's talk more about like what kind of giving back are you doing, and especially with the refugees and stuff like that. I'd like to hear more about that as well.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I will talk about three things briefly. The first thing is Landmark Hotel, because I really tried to transform that hotel into one that's very intentional about social impact. And then we can talk about 17 Ventures, which is, we've created Jordan's first impact fund. And then third, we can talk about a social enterprise and Jordan's first B Corp, which is SEP Jordan. And I represent them as their brand ambassador. So basically, to start with Landmark. So Landmark was a family business that I took over, I think it was 13 years ago, and I've been in the business since 2001. And really what we did, my husband and I, is we transformed it into a local brand. And so with that local brand came a local mission. So what we did is we made it female and family friendly. So we were the first private sector company to open a free daycare for our staff. We started working very intentionally to hire people with disabilities. And we started a sustainable agriculture initiative called the Green Hub. So we have an aquaponics initiative. And we started working with a lot of refugee camps. So what I tell people is any business, I mean, even something as traditional as a hotel can have impact if you think about it and you have a strategy in place. And then a couple of years ago, I founded 17 Ventures. And through an amazing team at 17, we designed what's now called the Jordan Growth and Impact Fund. And we partnered with a global impact fund manager that's been doing SME impact investing in emerging markets for the past 30 years. They're called SEAF. They're SEC regulated 501c3 in DC. And we designed Jordan's first impact fund in the sense that it is intentionally designed to further the Sustainable Development Goals, or the UN SDGs. And that's what the number 17 comes from, the 17 SDGs. This fund is specifically focused on SDG 5, which is gender equality, because Jordan and Palestine have incredibly low levels of female participation in the workforce. And we're also all about job creation, like you were just discussing. So decent work and economic growth, which is SDG 8. So we are intentionally coming into growth stage companies to create more jobs and help them create that family-friendly work environment. And we're also trying to include people with disabilities as well. So that's super exciting. On the refugee front, I'm doing a lot of different work. Like I mentioned, I represent SEAF Jordan, which is an amazing B Corp based in the poorest camp in Jeddah, which is the Gaza camp. And SEAF Jordan basically hires women to do amazing embroidery like this on bags, accessories, home accessories. And it's really allowed several hundred women and their families to come above the poverty line. And the reason why it's so important is because these refugees in particular don't have the right to work in Jordan. So it's just been a phenomenal experience. It's been almost 7 years that I've been working with them. And we have a shop for SEAF Jordan in the hotel, which is set to reopen next week. So super exciting work.
Very, very nice. And let's talk more about the Landmark Group, or the Landmark 2.0.
Sure.
Other than because I lived in Jordan for a bit of my life as well. So right now, and I know location-wise, the hotel is really located kind of in the middle of Amman right now. And I know we spoke earlier a couple of weeks ago with what we can do on the social impact with the hotel, and I'm pretty good with ideas, obviously, and we had a couple of very good ideas. But the thing is I want to know, like, I totally believe that hotels can play a big impact, other than the normal bring money into the country. That's a major one. And also, when you said the sustainability goals of the United Nations, these are something that honestly, in the last 3 years, I've been pursuing heavily, even when because we have an accelerator program that I'm running, and the more tick boxes these startups tick out of the 17, the better chance they have to get into the program. Especially, we had a sustainability program as well that was funded by the government of Dubai, and a couple of other sponsors. But I think one of them actually met 7 or 8 SGs, and they were this company is doing really well now as well. And so this is something that I was never really that deep into. In saying that, I think Crystal as well, the company that I founded, is one of the 5 or 10 companies in Jordan that is an equal opportunity employer by the United Nations standards, and we have the certifications and all that. So in saying that, like, what drove you to to make sure that you don't go off on a tangent and do something that is not really under the SGN, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness. Well, look, I come from the perspective that all impact needs to be impact investing, and all businesses need to have a social impact angle. So actually, if you were to ask me, what is the vision ultimately for the businesses that I'm involved with, or the investments that, we make, is to try and drive that broader thinking or leadership when it comes to these hybrid models. So I don't think that businesses can be all about business anymore. And I don't think charities can be all about charities. So it's about creating that social enterprise hybrid model that is about doing well and doing good. And I'm part of an official committee of the government to create a regulatory framework for social enterprises in Jordan. So I think, this is key. And I really think that all investment, we need to look beyond sort of ESG, which is the bare minimum. We really need to be intentionally pushing forward issues of equality and equity through our investments. And we need to make this mainstream. This is the thing. Like right now, it's very niche. And you see that. I mean, I manage our family office, and you can see that the mainstream banks that I work with, when I tell them, this is not, I won't engage in this type of bond or whatever, they don't understand what I'm talking about. So what we need to be doing as people who have these principles, we really need to be pushing forward this into the mainstream. But to go back to your sort of Landmark 2.0 reference, if I may sort of describe it, because it's very exciting and we're launching it next week. So basically, Landmark 2.0 is the name of a new innovation hub that we're launching in partnership with Endeavor. And you mentioned Endeavor just now, and it's powered by Endeavor. And the story behind that is that we realized very early on into the pandemic, when we closed the hotel, because the whole hospitality and tourism industry obviously was hit very badly, not only in Jordan, but globally. We realized that when we reopened, we needed to have young blood, innovation, creativity. And since I've been active in the ecosystem for the past couple of years, I thought, let me reach out to Endeavor and see what we can design. And we co-created with people like yourselves, Landmark 2.0. And basically what we are doing is inviting entrepreneurs, individuals, startups, established businesses. Really, we want to be very inclusive about this. So you could be a refugee, even a displaced person, from any sort of marginalized population. If you have a product or service that you think can drive revenue in the hotel for us and for your business, you can apply. And if you're selected, you can be incubated in the hotel. So you get access to that space. You get access to the Landmark services. You get access to the knowledge that me and my team have. And you can also be paired with a mentor from Endeavor. And we can also help you get access to finance. So, for example, let's say you have a food and beverage idea. And you don't have a place. So we have the largest kitchen in Amman. We can allocate a place for you to test your product with the real customers in the hotel and see how it goes. And you can have support from our accounting, from our HR, from Endeavor entrepreneurs. And it is much more than hospitality, because the whole asset, you can reimagine the spaces. So it could be even logistics, it can be tech, it can be so many different things. So this is why we're not calling it a hospitality accelerator. We're calling it really broadly an innovation hub. And applications will go live on July 1st.
Amazing, amazing. So I really like the collaborative aspect of this, where it's multi-layered, so many different, and I think there's something that you've mentioned that I'm going to actually double down on. I think education is something that is very big. Educating people, how to, we come from this this culture of, if he's not on my team, he's against me, kind of thing. And I'm like, when you talk more about, and you hear more about my podcasts, I'm not a guy, inshallah one day I'll have a unicorn, but I'm not a unicorn chaser, right? So I'm more of the collaborative. If somebody built it, let me feel, I actually own the domain build, innovate, repeat.com, right? So
Nice.
you know what I mean? Because you keep building, you keep innovating. I'm not the kind of guy, I'm not the person who wants to go all the way up to zero. Again, if it happens, good for me, but you know what I mean. But the collaboration aspect, I really enjoy working with different ideas. I enjoy working with different people. I enjoy working with different levels of people as well, like the sizes of companies. You know, when you're talking to a startup, it's not like you're talking to a scale up, then you're talking to a corporate. These are a lot of different things, and I think that whole building landmark 2.0 is going to offer corporates to come in, help the little guys. The SMEs will come in and see what kind of ideas they can scale. Uh, or it can be even a test lab for people to come in and try a new idea or a new business. You know, I know a lot of business. I help out a lot of businesses who, you know, it's like a woman and her kids cooking something, and then suddenly they come up with a formula for some cosmetics, right? So it's not. You know, if they also want us, you know, I also help them out in refining their idea as well. So you need people like that, because a lot of people might know how to do certain things, but they need the support, like finance, HR, how to hire your first hire, logistics, storage. This is like a nightmare by its own, right? And people come in and they come in with one thing and a great idea, but they need the support. They need the support, and that's, I think, you're doing a fantastic job by offering that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'll just add, and I totally agree with everything that you've said. I think we really want to customize whatever we offer to each selected participant, right? So we really want to look at what do they need? You know, it's not sort of a cookie cutter approach, and it's a pilot, right? I mean, we're not gonna take in 100 different companies. This is a pilot. We want to make sure that we're adding value. I think the fact that we have Endeavor on board powering this whole thing just, you know, gives it so much value. So we're super excited. And honestly, you know, it's been a very difficult year. You know, there's been a lot of hardship. There's been a lot of loss. I mean, we've lost a lot of people that we love. People have lost jobs. I mean, I don't think we can really understand how hard it's been for the poorest of the poor. You know, we've been set back on poverty, on gender. So these small efforts, it's also a way to inject hope back into our community. You know, people are like, they're looking for something to look forward to. We have to be collaborative. Like, I've never been the type of person that doesn't want to work with others. I'm always trying to leverage what I have to support people. And sometimes people are like, how can Mary be all over the place? Look, because I care. I'm trying to do my best. And I think we just all need to be supporting each other as much as possible.
I think definitely. And that's where the collaboration comes in, right? So, and, you know, you linking up as well with organizations like Endeavor, it's also really good because they're very well, they have different sets of talents that can definitely add value and can definitely, you know, fire up this engine of yours, which is looking forward to hear more about that. So
thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about your the family office or the investment office. So tell me more. What do you look for there? Like, tell me some funny, interesting stories that happened, if you'd like to share.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, because, you know, I don't have a family fund. I'm planning on one, hopefully. But I'm telling you, my shed of like 5 or 10 stories that I have just in the last couple of years of really funny stories that happened to me with investments, with a lot of oops, you know what I'm saying? So if you can share anything, it's fine. If not, you can tell us basically.
Sure. Well, I can tell you one interesting thing that came up recently, but I'll also talk to you about an investment theme that I'm super excited about. So I have found that the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, you know, that the whole Palestinian solidarity movement supports is something that's very new to a lot of bankers. So when you tell them that you don't want to invest in something because it's on the boycott list, let's say that company has a factory in an illegal settlement, for example, you know, there's absolutely no understanding on that. So it's fine. You know, we have to recognize that that's the level of knowledge within mainstream banking. But then I think it's up to clients like me and like you to go ahead and say, look, let me just educate you on this, you know? So next time I go to Switzerland, I'm going to ask, you know, the head of the bank to give me 1 hour with all their bankers, and I'm going to tell them, anyway. But so the area of investment that I'm super excited about is called refugee-lens investments or displaced people's lens investments. And I'm now working with an amazing US-based organization called the Refugee Investment Network. And they actually designed this lens. And with the Refugee Investment Network and SEAF, which is the fund manager that I spoke about before, we've designed something called the Globally Displaced People's Fund, which is an investment fund with a refugee lens. So what is the idea behind this? The idea is that the refugee crisis is a protracted one. I mean, people are staying in displacement for decades. So we need to start thinking about building inclusive economies, and we need to start looking at the benefits that displaced peoples bring. I mean, we can see this in Jordan, for example. So what this lens says is that we are actively looking for investments that are either founded by refugees, managed by refugees, service refugees, hire refugees. And by refugees, I mean displaced peoples generally. We're not sticking with the international legal definition, and or host communities. So there's an equal weight put on the host community element of it. So this is something that's very exciting for Jordan. So if you are an investor that's interested in displaced lens investing, or you're interested in justice lens investing, then Jordan is a good place to be looking at for investment opportunities.
Sure.
And we are currently conducting a study with the Refugee Investment Network that's sponsored by JICA, the Japanese, to look at innovative approaches to investing with the displaced people's lens. So this is something I'm super excited about. So SEP Jordan, which is the social enterprise I spoke about before, would come as part of that lens, because it's clearly hiring hundreds of refugee artists in the camp, but yet it's a business. So it's not a charity. We're looking beyond charity. We're looking at that hybrid that I spoke about before. So yeah.
Now, any plans on like expanding into other places of like, are you looking into Lebanon? Are you looking into Egypt? Are you looking into Syria, Iraq, or even the GCC? Maybe GCC would help you obviously spread the more awareness and stuff like that. So, are you planning on a next step to these countries?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so let's talk about the vehicles in particular. So the Jordan fund that we're raising for now, that has that gender lens, it's looking at Jordan and Palestine. So those are the geographies that we are interested in. On the refugee side, it's global. So we're looking at not only Jordan, but we're looking at any territory that's absorbed displaced peoples. Like you can look at Venezuela, Colombia, Bangladesh. I mean, Jordan obviously is the best place to prototype something like this, because Jordan has been amazing in terms of opening up certain sectors, even in the midst of a very difficult economic situation. So this project with the Refugee Investment Network is not only happening in Jordan, but it also happened in Mexico. It's happening in Uganda, because really, if you think about it, the refugee issue is a global issue. It's a human issue. It's a dignity issue. It's something that goes really beyond borders. But I just think, as someone who's based in Jordan and believes in this country, I think it's an opportunity for Jordan to put itself on the map for private capital that's looking to deploy within a particular lens. So SDG 16, which is, the social justice sort of SDG, there's very few vehicles out there for a family office or maybe a pension fund that's interested to invest with that angle. So I think it would behoove Jordan to look at it seriously.
Amazing. Okay. So in saying that, right now, because we are looking into more, I know you're planning on launching, and this episode might air a bit later than July 1st, but anyway, I know I'll share the link in the actual and we'll send you also as well a shout out when you guys launch. But in saying that, like, what would you like to talk about when it comes to your, like, have you made any investments like recently that, that you're looking forward for them, or they've done any impact or anything like that? I'd like to know more about that as well.
Yeah, so it's early for us. We're still raising. COVID-19 has been a huge knock, I think, for fund managers. So we have an amazing grants coming in from the Canadians that have been super supportive. So we're looking to do 3 investments by the end of the year, but I can't speak about them yet because we're under NDA. And for the refugee lens side of things, we are still building our pipeline. So if anyone has any interesting companies to share with us, we are more than excited to learn about them.
100%. Okay, so we're back to the part of the show where we asked every one of my guests the same question. Uh,
Okay.
I'd like you to, answer. So my question is, if you have a superpower, or if you would
Yeah.
like a superpower, what would that be? Or if you want to mimic a superhero, who would that?
Yeah.
So if you want to answer both, you can do that as well.
I am the Hulk in disguise,
Okay.
essentially. I know I'm not looking so green today, but I am essentially the Hulk because I am tough, but I'm so kind. And I get mad when I see people being mistreated. Err. So I am the Hulk. If I had a superpower other than being the Hulk, because that's already fact, I think I would like to know what people are thinking. So I don't have to think, what are you thinking? And I would just know, because that's just such a waste of time and energy to think, what are they really thinking? So I think I would like to have that superpower.
That's it has come up a couple of times where people want to read other people's minds, which is seems to be. But in all fairness, that would be my go-to superpower if I ever got powers, because I sometimes wonder, like, what did he say? Like, what is he thinking? That's other than even trying to sell anything, then I'd want to know what they really think. But no, but sometimes, especially when you're in debates and people are saying stuff and I'm like, what the hell is he talking or she talking about? But anyway,
Yeah.
that's definitely something right there. So I loved having you on the show.
Thank you.
Would you like to summarize like anything you want to tell my audience before we close off the show?
No, thank you so much. Just want to say I love your show. I've loved all your guests. Looking forward to seeing your future episodes. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Mary. And stay tuned for the next episode where we'll be talking a lot more interesting stuff. Until next time, take care.